I killed you 10 times. Fuck you, dead man. When I reach like you did mine. Thank you.
Know anything.
Break it off. Whoa.
Man.
Asunto.
Quiero una
Tenemos opciones, ¿eh? $20.
¡No puedo! ¡No puedo!
Vete, get out! Go now.
Los hermanos Martín.
I've killed you 10 times. Fuck you, dead man. When I reach in like you did mine. Thank you.
Hey guys, today we're diving deep into the explosive, and let's be honest, slightly unhinged world of Rambo, Last Blood from 2019. Now, if you thought John Rambo had finally hung up his bandana for good and was busy tending to prize-winning petunias, well, you clearly haven't met John Rambo. This is a passion project for me, and a like or subscribe is the best way to show your support. So if you're on board, join the crew. If not, thanks for watching anyway. The film opens not with a bang, but with a rescue as our grizzled hero is helping out during a massive rainstorm, attempting to save some hikers stuck in a flooded cave. He's navigating treacherous tunnels, the water roaring around him, and the sounds of frantic cries echoing through the tight spaces. Even in retirement, Rambo's still the guy you call when things go sideways, putting his life on the line with the same quiet intensity we've come to expect. He moves with a weary efficiency, pulling people to safety, the rain lashing down, a stark reminder that even heroes have to deal with paperwork, or in his case, the aftermath of nature's tantrums. We quickly learn that Rambo has found a semblance of peace on his Arizona ranch, a sprawling, isolated property that feels like a character in itself. He lives with his longtime friend Maria and her granddaughter, Gabrielle. It's a surprisingly domestic scene for a man who once waged war on an entire town. He's taking care of horses, mending fences, and generally doing the quiet, earthy work of a rancher. The clinking of tools, the soft snorts of horses, the creaking of old wood, these are the sounds of his new normal. But don't let the idyllic setting fool you. Beneath the calm exterior, the scars of his past wars are still very much present. We see him in his workshop, a place filled with the familiar, almost comforting scent of oil and metal, meticulously crafting various wooden items. It's a stark contrast to the bombs and bullets of his previous life, yet the precision and focus are the same. This man doesn't just make birdhouses, he engineers them. We also get a glimpse into his underground tunnels, a labyrinth he's been digging beneath his property. This isn't just a hobby. It's a security system, a bolt hole, a place where a man who's been hunted can feel truly safe. The scraping of shovels, the damp smell of earth, the absolute darkness, all speak to a deep-seated need for control and preparedness. The visual of him moving through these dark passages, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom, is a subtle hint of the storm brewing beneath the surface of his quiet life. Life on the ranch might seem tranquil, but teenage angst, like a rogue tumbleweed, always finds a way. Gabrielle, a bright, compassionate young woman, has a burning desire to reconnect with her biological father, a man who, let's just say, isn't winning any Father of the Year awards. She confides in Rambo, the man who's been more of a dad to her than anyone. The wind chimes gently clinking on the porch, a stark contrast to the internal turmoil Gabrielle is feeling. She's tired of the unanswered questions, the empty space where a father figure should be, and she's ready to take matters into her own hands. Rambo, ever the stoic protector, tries to dissuade her, his voice a low rumble, filled with a lifetime of experience and the chilling echoes of dangerous places. He knows the world outside their ranch isn't a walk in the park, especially across the border. He warns her, explaining that her father isn't a good man, that he abandoned her and her mother for a reason. His words are heavy, weighted with concern, and the subtle flex of his jaw tells us he's holding back a torrent of dark memories. But as with all teenagers convinced they know best, Gabrielle is determined. She feels a deep-seated need for closure, for answers, for something to fill the void. The tension in their conversation is palpable, a quiet standoff between youthful idealism and grizzled realism. Rambo's gaze is intense, a silent plea for her to understand the risks. The sound of crickets beginning their nightly chorus outside only amplifies the weight of their discussion. She argues that she needs to understand, to see him just once, to confront the past. It's a classic coming-of-age dilemma, but with the ominous shadow of Rambo's world hanging over it. He eventually relents, not because he agrees with her, but because he loves her. He knows he can't physically stop her, and maybe, just maybe, he hopes that by letting her go, she'll learn her lesson safely. He's like a seasoned general reluctantly sending a young recruit into a skirmish, knowing the dangers, but trusting in her spirit. The scene ends with a sense of foreboding, a quiet understanding that Gabrielle's journey is about to kick off a chain of events that no one, especially Rambo, will be prepared for. The dust on the ranch road seems to stretch endlessly, beckoning her towards an unknown future and us, the audience, into a narrative that's about to take a very dark turn, ignoring Rambo's sagely warnings. Because let's face it, who listens to sensible advice when there's a dramatic family reunion at stake? Gabrielle and her friend Gazelle pack up and head south of the border into Mexico. The upbeat music in the car, Gazelle's cheerful chatter, and Gabrielle's hopeful but nervous demeanor create a stark contrast to the grim reality that awaits them. The car stereo is humming, the windows are down, and they're passing through the sun-drenched, dusty landscape. It almost feels like a road trip montage, until you remember what kind of movie this is. It's a land of vibrant colors, but also hidden dangers, a place where Rambo's warnings about wolves and sheep ring with a chilling accuracy. They eventually find Gabrielle's biological father, Manuel, in a rundown, almost skeletal house, a place where hopes and dreams clearly come to wither and die. The peeling paint, the broken windows, the pervasive smell of stale beer and regret. It's not exactly the picturesque reunion Gabrielle might have envisioned. The conversation is as cold and harsh as the concrete floor. Manuel is a bitter, wasted shell of a man, his words slurred and his eyes devoid of warmth. He quickly shatters Gabrielle's illusions, telling her she means nothing to him, that she was a burden, and essentially confirming Rambo's assessment that he's an irredeemable jerk. The words hang heavy in the air, each one a gut punch to Gabrielle's already fragile hopes. The silence that follows is deafening, punctuated only by the distant sounds of the bustling, unforgiving city. This isn't the emotional closure she craved. It's a brutal reality check, delivered with all the finesse of a brick to the face. Gabrielle's face crumples, tears silently streaming down her face, the weight of years of unanswered questions finally culminating in this crushing disappointment. It's a moment designed to pull at your heartstrings, to make you feel the raw pain of a daughter rejected. The vibrant energy of Mexico suddenly feels suffocating, the heat oppressive. The scene perfectly sets up the inevitable, unfortunate turn of events, because in a Rambo movie, when a beloved character experiences profound sadness, it's usually a precursor to something much, much worse. And we, the audience, know it's not going to end with a polite sorry for your trouble. Oh no, Rambo's about to get involved, and when Rambo gets involved, things tend to escalate from bad day to international incident. After the soul-crushing rejection from her father, Gabrielle, in a fit of understandable teenage angst and heartbreak, storms off alone. Gazelle tries to stop her, calling out her name, but Gabrielle's pain is too raw, too consuming. She's wandering the streets of a bustling but increasingly shady part of town, her mind reeling. The sounds of traffic and street vendors a distant blur compared to the cacophony of her internal despair. The vibrant chaos of the Mexican street suddenly feels menacing, every shadow a potential threat. A creepy guy named El Flaco approaches her, offering comfort and, more ominously, a drink. His voice is smooth, his demeanor seemingly friendly, but there's a slithery undertone that instantly screams red flag to anyone who's ever seen a movie. Gabrielle, vulnerable and distraught, makes the fatal mistake of accepting his offer. The drink is, of course, laced with something nasty. The world starts to spin, the streetlights blurring into streaks of color, and the sounds of the city become muffled, distorted. Her vision tunnels, and she feels her legs giving out from under her. It's a classic trap, expertly sprung. El Flaco and his goons, members of the ruthless Martinez cartel, quickly grab her, their hands rough and cold. She tries to fight, to scream, but her body is betraying her, heavy and unresponsive. The last thing she sees before darkness consumes her is the leering face of her captor. It's a terrifying, visceral scene, emphasizing the vulnerability of someone thrust into a world they don't understand. A world without the protective shield of Rambo. Meanwhile, Giselle, realizing the danger, desperately tries to call Rambo, her voice trembling with panic, the stark sound of a dialed tone echoing her growing fear. The silence on the other end is deafening, signaling that Rambo is still miles away, unaware of the nightmare unfolding for the girl he considers family. The shift from Gabrielle's hopeful quest to this brutal abduction is jarring, pulling us abruptly into the darker corners of the story. It's a grim reminder that in Rambo's world, no good deed, or in this case, a naive quest for closure, goes unpunished. Back on the ranch, the phone rings, piercing the quiet evening like a siren. It's Giselle, her voice a desperate, fragmented whisper, choked with fear. Gabrielle is gone. The words hit Rambo like a physical blow, the air knocked from his lungs. His stoic facade cracks, revealing a flash of deep-seated fury. The sound of the phone clattering back into its cradle is a harsh exclamation mark on the sudden shift in his world. There's no hesitation, no deliberation. Rambo, the ultimate protector, springs into action. He's back in hunter mode, his movements precise, his gaze fixed, a man on a grim mission. He grabs his worn leather jacket, the one that probably smells of gunpowder and regret, and he's out the door. The familiar hum of his truck engine starting up is a promise of vengeance. The drive across the border into Mexico is depicted with a gritty realism, the landscape blurring past. A harsh transition from the relative safety of his ranch to the lawless territories across the board. The dust kicks up behind his truck, a silent declaration of war. He tracks down Manuel, Gabrielle's biological father, who is, predictably, less than helpful. Manuel, looking even more disheveled and pathetic than before, offers nothing but hollow words and pathetic excuses. Rambo's patience is razor thin, his voice a low growl, barely containing the violence simmering beneath the surface. He roughly grabs Manuel, demanding answers, the sound of their struggle echoing in the dilapidated house. It's a tense, uncomfortable exchange, Rambo's sheer physical presence intimidating the weaker man into submission. Finally, Manuel, sweating and shaking, points Rambo towards a seedy nightclub, a place where cartel activity is as common as bad tequila. Rambo, ever the strategist, knows this is a dangerous lead, but he's not about to back down. He makes his way through the bustling, dimly lit club, the loud, thumping music and the haze of smoke filling the air. He's searching, his eyes scanning every face, every shadow, his senses on high alert. He finds a woman, a known associate of the cartel, and tries to extract information. His questions are direct, his tone menacing. The woman, initially defiant, quickly realizes she's dealing with a different breed of animal. The air crackles with unspoken threats. He learns that Gabrielle was taken by the Martinez cartel, a name that sends a shiver down even Rambo's spine. It's a name synonymous with brutality, with no mercy. He presses for more, but she provides vague answers, clearly terrified. As he leaves the club, the vibrant lights of the city feel like a mockery of the darkness he's walking into. He's then ambushed by several cartel members, a chaotic flurry of fists and boots. The crack of bone, the grunts of effort, the sickening thuds as bodies collide. Rambo, though older, still fights with a primal ferocity, but the numbers are against him. He's beaten, slashed with a knife, and left for dead in a muddy ditch, the rain beginning to fall, washing his blood into the grime. The rain feels cold and unforgiving, a bitter taste of failure. It's a brutal reminder that even Rambo has limits, that even legends can be overwhelmed. The scene ends with him lying broken, his breathing shallow, the sounds of distant sirens fading into the night. It's a shocking, visceral defeat, a moment that makes us genuinely fear for his survival and, more importantly, for Gabriel's fate. This isn't just a bump in the road. It's a profound setback, a moment where the hunter becomes the hunted. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Just when you thought Rambo was down for the count, perhaps contemplating an early retirement to an assisted living facility, because who survives that kind of beating, right? He wakes up, and not in a hospital. Oh no! He's in the apartment of Carmen Delgado, an independent journalist who's also been pursuing the Martinez cartel. The soft light filtering through the window, the hushed sounds of the city outside, provide a brief respite from the previous scene's brutality. Carmen, with her serious gaze and quiet determination, explains she found him and patched him up. The smell of antiseptic and old coffee hangs in the air. Rambo is a mess, his face a roadmap of cuts and bruises, his body aching with every movement. The groan of pain that escapes his lips is a testament to the severity of his injuries. Carmen tells him she's been investigating the cartel for months, trying to find her own missing sister, who also fell prey to their cruel machinations. She's seen the dark underbelly of their operations, heard the whispers of their atrocities. Her voice is low, filled with a quiet anguish, but also a burning resolve. She offers Rambo not just aid, but crucial intelligence, providing him with a name and a location, Victor Martinez, the cartel's ruthless leader, and a brothel where they traffic girls. The clinking of a glass of water as she hands it to him, the rustle of papers as she shows him evidence, these small details underscore the quiet urgency of their alliance. As Rambo slowly recovers, his determination hardens into a steel-cold resolve. He's not just angry, he's incandescent with rage. The pain in his body is nothing compared to the pain in his heart, the guilt over Gabriel's fate fueling a thirst for vengeance. He spends his recovery time meticulously planning, his mind a steel trap, every detail considered. We see him honing his skills, not just with brute force, but with cunning and strategy. The chunk of a knife being sharpened, the careful placement of wires and mechanisms for his traps. It's a chilling preview of the devastation he's about to unleash. This isn't just a rescue mission anymore. It's a full-blown declaration of war. He's no longer just John Rambo, the veteran. He's John Rambo, the embodiment of righteous fury, a force of nature about to be unleashed upon those who dared to harm his family. The quiet hum of the air conditioner in Carmen's apartment can't mask the ominous sense of impending violence that now surrounds Rambo. He thanks Carmen with a curt nod, a silent promise that her efforts won't be in vain. His eyes, though still bruised, now gleam with a dangerous fire, a promise of retribution that will shake the very foundations of the Martinez cartel. He's ready to bring the thunder, and oh boy, will it be loud. Armed with Carmen's intel and a renewed, bone-deep resolve, Rambo, now a walking arsenal of vengeance, prepares for his assault on the brothel. The night is dark and oppressive, the perfect cover for a man about to become a one-man wrecking crew. He moves like a shadow, the whisper of his clothes against the night air the only sound. The brothel itself is a sprawling, multi-story building, its gaudy lights and pulsing, muffled music a sickening facade for the horrors within. The distant thump-thump of the bass feels like a macabre heartbeat. Rambo disables the surveillance cameras with swift, practiced movements, the snip of wires a prelude to chaos. He scales walls with surprising agility for a man of his age, his hands finding purchase on rough surfaces, his boots making no sound. He's a ghost in the machine, infiltrating the cartel's stronghold with surgical precision. The first cartel guard never sees him coming. A swift, brutal takedown, the gasp of air leaving the man's lungs, followed by the sickening thud as he hits the ground. Rambo is efficient, merciless. Each step is calculated, each kill a silent declaration of his unwavering purpose. He moves through the darkened hallways, the lingering sense of cheap perfume, stale cigarettes mixing with the metallic tang of fear. The muffled sounds of the club below, the distant laughter, are a jarring contrast to the grim work Rambo is undertaking. He discovers Gabrielle, barely conscious, bruised, and clearly heavily drugged, held captive in a small, wretched room. Her frail figure stirs a deep, primal rage within him. The sight of her, so vulnerable and broken, ignites a fury that radiates from him. He gently, carefully lifts her, his heart heavy with grief and guilt, the scratchy sound of the bed sheets as he moves her. He has to get her out, but the building is a maze of armed guards and locked doors. The escape is a desperate, bloody scramble. Alarms blare, sirens begin to wail in the distance, shattering the relative quiet of his infiltration. The sounds of gunfire erupt, sharp and deafening. Rambo, with Gabrielle slung over his shoulder, moves with an almost superhuman determination, taking down every cartel member who stands in his way. The crack of his pistol, the whiz of bullets, the crunch of a fist connecting with a jaw, it's a symphony of violence. He uses anything and everything as a weapon, improvising with a brutality that only a man pushed to his absolute limits can muster. This isn't pretty. It's raw, animalistic, and utterly devastating. The scene is a masterclass in controlled chaos, Rambo carving a path through the cartel like a hot knife through butter. He bursts through a window, escaping into the chaotic night, the sounds of pursuit close behind. The night air, once a blanket, now feels like a chase, the urgency of their escape palpable. The mission is not over. It has only just begun. With Gabrielle cradled in his arms, Rambo flees the brothel, the sounds of chaos and alarm sirens echoing behind him. He gets her into his truck, the engine roaring to life with a desperate urgency. The tires squeal as he peels away from the cartel's den of horrors, leaving a trail of dust and destruction. His gaze, usually so focused, is now constantly flicking to Gabrielle, her small, frail body slumped against the seat. Her breathing is shallow and ragged, a faint whisper of life. He talks to her, his voice rough with emotion, trying to keep her conscious, to reassure her, to somehow keep her tethered to this world. The desperate pleas from Rambo, usually a man of few words, highlight the depth of his anguish. He pushes the truck to its limits, the roar of the engine a desperate prayer for speed. The road back to his ranch is long and treacherous, every mile feeling like 1,000. He knows she's fading, the drugs pumped into her system by the cartel slowly but surely shutting down her young body. He watches her, helpless, as the color drains from her face, her eyes losing their spark. The thump-thump of his own heart against his ribs feels deafening, a counterpoint to the agonizing silence from Gabrielle. He talks to her about the ranch, about Maria, about home, trying to evoke any memory that might bring her back. He's trying to fight the inevitable, the Grim Reaper silently riding shotgun. The raw emotion on Rambo's face is almost unbearable to watch. The stoic warrior is undone by the imminent loss of his surrogate daughter. Then, as they cross into American territory, a faint, almost imperceptible gasp escapes Gabrielle's lips. Her eyes flutter open one last time, a moment of recognition, a glimmer of peace, before they become vacant. Her head lolls to the side, and the sound of her last breath, a soft sigh, is absorbed by the roar of the truck's engine. She's gone. The silence that follows is absolute, crushing. Rambo's world shatters around him. His hands grip the steering wheel, knuckles white, a silent scream building in his throat. The tears that finally stream down his weathered face are not just for Gabrielle, but for all the innocents he failed to protect, all the horrors he couldn't prevent. He pulls over, the truck groaning to a halt, and holds her close, rocking her gently, the bitter taste of defeat and profound loss filling his mouth. The visual of Rambo, broken and defeated, holding Gabrielle's lifeless body, is devastating. It's a gut-wrenching scene, the emotional core of the film, and the catalyst for the bloody retribution that is about to come. This isn't just a sad moment. It's the moment Rambo fully embraces the darkness, the moment he becomes the instrument of pure, unadulterated vengeance. The quiet despair of this moment is a powerful prelude to the thunderous storm he is about to unleash. The aftermath of Gabrielle's death is a suffocating blanket of grief. Rambo, a man who has witnessed and inflicted unimaginable horrors, is utterly broken. He carries her body back to the ranch, the desolate landscape reflecting his inner turmoil. Maria, heartbroken, collapses at the news, her cries of anguish echoing through the quiet house. The sound of her wailing, raw and primal, is truly devastating. Rambo, his face a mask of stone, digs Gabriel's grave himself, the thud of the shovel hitting the earth a grim, rhythmic beat. He buries her next to her mother, a somber, silent ceremony, the wind whispering through the trees like a mournful lament. The sight of him, a solitary figure against the vast, indifferent sky, is a powerful image of profound loss. After the burial, a shift occurs within Rambo. The grief doesn't subside. It transforms, crystallizes into an obsidian-hard fury. The quiet despair is replaced by a cold, calculating rage. His eyes, once filled with a haunting sadness, now burn with an unholy fire. He stands over her grave, his jaw clenched, every muscle in his body taut. The air around him seems to thicken, charged with unspoken menace. This isn't just about revenge. It's about a man's soul being pushed past its breaking point. This isn't a quick burst of anger. It's a simmering, slow-burning inferno that threatens to consume everything in its path. He then returns to Carmen, who is grieving for her own sister, also a victim of the cartel. Their shared pain for their lost loved ones creates an unspoken bond. Rambo, in his usual economical fashion, tells her he's going to finish it. There's no grandstanding, no dramatic declarations, just a simple, terrifying promise. The quiet resolve in his voice is more chilling than any shout. He warns Carmen to stay away, to protect herself, a final act of care amidst his descent into darkness. Now, a man like Rambo doesn't just get angry and then go for a stroll. When Rambo gets angry, he goes full MacGyver, but with significantly more lethal results. He begins his meticulous preparations for war. His ranch, once a sanctuary, starts to transform into a fortress, a veritable house of horrors for anyone foolish enough to trespass. The clink of metal, the snip of wire, the scrape of wood, these are the sounds of a warrior forging his ultimate battlefield. He's digging trenches, planting tripwires, fabricating crude but devastating explosives. His workshop, once used for peaceful carpentry, now churns out instruments of death. He's sharpening his legendary knife, the whisper of steel against stone, a chilling prelude to the carnage. He's laying out his arsenal, a terrifying array of guns, bows, and homemade weapons. The scene is a grim ballet of preparation, each action precise, deliberate, and steeped in the promise of brutal retribution. The calm, almost surgical nature of his actions makes them all the more terrifying. He's not rushing. He's savoring the anticipation, planning every excruciating detail of the cartel's demise. The visual of him, focused and grim, constructing these deadly devices, sends a shiver down your spine. This is Rambo's endgame, and the Martinez cartel has just punched their ticket to a very exclusive, very painful, one-way trip before he brings the party home to his ranch. Rambo decides to pay a little visit to the locals who helped facilitate Gabriel's abduction and demise. He's not one for passive-aggressive notes or, formal complaints. His method of conflict resolution involves sharp blades and even sharper strategies. He crosses back into Mexico, now a lone wolf stalking his prey, leaving a trail of pure dread in his wake. His face is a grim mask, his eyes like chips of ice, reflecting the cold, hard resolve burning within him. He hunts down El Flaco, the slimy creep who lured Gabrielle. The squeal of tires as he cornered him, the fear etched on El Flaco's face, are almost satisfying. Rambo interrogates him with an intensity that would make a seasoned torturer blush. His voice a low growl asking for the location of Victor Martinez and his brother. Hugo, the sound of El Flaco's desperate whimpers and garbled confessions fill the air. Before Rambo silences him permanently with a swift, brutal movement, the thud of a lifeless body hitting the dirt. The scene is quick, efficient, and unflinching. Next on his hit list is Hugo Martinez, Victor's younger, equally despicable brother. Rambo infiltrates Hugo's compound with stealth and deadly precision, moving like a wraith through the shadows. The soft crunch of leaves under his boots, the whisper of the night wind, every sound is amplified in the tense silence. He takes out guards with silent takedowns, the snap of a neck, the gurgle of a dying man. He confronts Hugo in a brutal, hand-to-hand fight. The crack of bone, the whoosh of punches, the grunts of effort. It's a visceral, no-holds-barred brawl. Rambo, though clearly still feeling the aches of his previous beating, fights with an adrenaline-fueled ferocity, fueled by his vengeance. Hugo, for all his bravado, is no match for a man possessed by such primal rage. Rambo dispatches him with a grim satisfaction, leaving a clear message for Victor. He's coming. The whole sequence is a chilling display of Rambo's unparalleled tracking and combat skills. He's not just killing. He's sending a message, a declaration of war etched in blood and fear. He's systematically dismantling the cartel's chain of command, one brutal execution at a time. The sounds of distant sirens, of panic shouts, signal that the cartel is starting to realize they've poked a very angry bear. Rambo knows he's stirring the hornet's nest, and that's exactly what he wants. He's baiting Victor, drawing him out, knowing that a true hunter doesn't just chase. He sets the perfect trap. The stage is now set for the final, bloody confrontation, and it's going to be on Rambo's turf, a place where he holds all the home field advantages. And the cartel is about to learn what happens when you bring a knife to a Rambo fight. Or, more accurately, bring an army to Rambo's booby-trapped ranch. After his personal invitations to the Martinez brothers, Rambo returns to his ranch, not for peace and quiet, but to finalize his elaborate death trap. This isn't just a home. It's a strategically designed killing field, meticulously crafted by a man who's seen to many wars not to prepare for the last one. He's a one-man construction crew, but instead of building a porch, he's engineering mayhem. We see him in his element, a silent, deadly architect of destruction. The clink of metal, the creak of ropes, the thud of wood being hammered into place, every sound is a precursor to violence. He's rigging tripwires that connect to explosives, creating concealed pit traps lined with sharpened stakes, and setting up crossbows that fire with deadly accuracy at the slightest disturbance. The snap of a taut wire, the click of a trigger mechanism, the shhhhp of a blade being set. It's a terrifying symphony of impending doom. He's also refined his underground tunnel system, turning it into a labyrinthine network of ambush points and escape routes. The scrape of his boots on the damp earth as he navigates the dark, narrow passages, the drip-drip of water echoing through the tunnels. It's a subterranean war zone. He places directional charges, sets up ventilation shafts that will funnel smoke and gas, and strategically positions firing slits. He knows every inch of this land, every nook and cranny, and he's using it all to his advantage. It's like watching a deadly version of Home Alone, but instead of paint cans, Kevin McAllister has claymores. He's not just defending his home, he's inviting them to their slaughter, a grim smile almost imperceptibly playing on his lips as he envisions their demise. The methodical nature of his work, devoid of emotion, makes it all the more chilling. He's not driven by blind rage anymore. He's driven by a cold, calculating desire for absolute retribution. Maria, ever the worried mother figure, tries to intervene, to reason with him, to ask him to consider a different path. Her voice is soft, pleading, a stark contrast to the hardened resolve in Rambo's eyes. But Rambo simply stares at her, his gaze unwavering, his purpose absolute. He tells her to get to safety, to leave the ranch, because what's coming is beyond anything she's ever witnessed. The quiet resolve in his voice leaves no room for argument. He's going to war and he intends to win. The scene underscores the transformation of Rambo from a man seeking peace to a man consumed by the righteous, bloody pursuit of justice. The ranch, once a symbol of his attempt at a quiet life, is now his ultimate weapon, a monument to his pain and his fury. This is where the cartel will meet its end, and Rambo, our grizzled veteran, is ready to personally escort them to the afterlife. One brutal trap at a time, true to Rambo's predictions, Victor Martinez and his entire crew, looking less like a sophisticated criminal enterprise and more like a poorly organized biker gang, decide to pay a visit. They roll up in a convoy of intimidating, dusty SUVs and pickup trucks, engines roaring, tires kicking up dirt, a plume of dust trailing behind them like a morbid banner. The sounds of their vehicles rumbling down the dirt road towards the ranch are like a death knell, signaling the beginning of the end. Victor Martinez, draped in his signature dark clothing, steps out, a smug, arrogant grin plastered on his face. He's clearly underestimating the man he's about to face. His voice, when he finally speaks, is laced with a chilling confidence, telling his men to find him and make him pay for Hugo's death. He thinks he's walking into a simple hit, a quick retaliation. Oh, how wrong he is. He's walking into Rambo's personal nightmare factory, and the tour guide is not amused. The cartel members, heavily armed and full of their own brand of swagger, fan out across the property, their boots crunching on the dry grass. The clink of their assault rifles, the chatter of their radios, they think they're in control. But every step they take, every rustle in the bushes, every shadow that shifts, is part of Rambo's grand design. They're like lambs to the slaughter, unaware that the shepherd they're hunting is about to turn into a wolf. The air is thick with anticipation, the sounds of nature silenced by the approaching storm. The sun begins to set, casting long, ominous shadows across the ranch, further adding to the sense of dread. Rambo, meanwhile, is nowhere to be seen. He's watching, waiting, observing their movements from the safety of his subterranean lair, his eyes peering through a hidden slit in the ground, his expression cold and unyielding. The click of his rifle, the almost imperceptible whoosh of air as he primes a trap, these are the only sounds he makes. He's letting them come deeper into his web, allowing them to feel a false sense of security before he springs his deadly surprises. It's a game of cat and mouse, but the cat has spent years perfecting his hunting techniques, and these mice are about to get a very rude awakening. The tension builds, the quiet before the explosion, as the cartel members spread out. Their confident voices slowly turning into cautious whispers as they realize the silence is too profound, the ranch too empty. They start to sense that something is off, a feeling of unease creeping in. This isn't just a farm, it's a tomb, and they've just walked inside. Rambo is about to show them why you don't mess with family, especially when that family includes a man who literally wrote the book on creative ways to incapacitate bad guys. The search begins, and the cartel members, ever so predictably, walk right into Rambo's initial booby traps. It's not a subtle opening, it's a chaotic explosion of violence. The crack of a tripwire, followed by the thud as a cartel member plummets into a camouflaged pit, landing on sharpened stakes with a sickening splat. The screams are immediate, sharp, and cut short. Another unlucky soul steps on a pressure plate, triggering a hidden crossbow that fires with a chilling whoosh, embedding a bolt deep into his chest. The gurgle as he chokes on his own blood is a grim sound effect. These initial kills are brutal, efficient, and designed to sow panic and confusion. Victor Martinez, watching from a distance, bellows orders, trying to regain control, but his men are already on edge, their confidence rapidly eroding. The bang of a startled rifle, the shouts of men in fear, the chaos is immediate. Rambo, meanwhile, is a phantom, moving silently through his intricate tunnel system. The scrape of his boots on the concrete, the drip of water, the almost imperceptible click as he primes another trap, these are the only sounds he makes. He's drawing them in, like a spider reeling in flies. The cartel members, thinking they've found cover, foolishly follow a path that leads them right into the mouth of Rambo's underground lair. The sounds of their heavy boots thudding down the earthen steps, their voices echoing nervously through the dark passages, fill the air. Then the tunnel becomes a slaughterhouse. Rambo, emerging from hidden alcoves, attacks with a primal ferocity. He uses his environment, his traps, and his legendary knife skills to devastating effect. The swish of his blade, the guttural scream of a cartel member as his throat is slit, the thud of a body falling in the claustrophobic darkness, it's a symphony of close-quarters combat. He's twisting necks with a sickening crack, impaling men on hidden spikes with a gruesome squelch, and using his bare hands to dispatch others with brutal efficiency. The sounds of struggle, the grunts, the desperate cries for help are muffled by the earth, creating a terrifying intimacy to the violence. The flickering light from a cartel member's flashlight beam cuts through the darkness, illuminating brief, horrific glimpses of the carnage. Rambo is a force of nature down there, a vengeful spirit moving through his self-made purgatory. The cartel members are disoriented, terrified, caught in a maze from which there is no escape. They're shooting wildly, their bullets pinging off the tunnel walls, but Rambo is too fast, too cunning. He's gone before they can even aim. This isn't a fair fight. It's an execution. The panting of the surviving cartel members, their frantic whispers, illustrate the terror they're experiencing. Rambo is systematically thinning their numbers, turning their bravado into desperate fear, preparing them for the ultimate showdown. This initial wave of traps and tunnel ambushes sets the tone for the entire sequence, brutal, relentless, and utterly unforgiving. Having decimated a good chunk of the cartel in his tunnel system, Rambo, like a conductor leading a bloody orchestra, signals his next movement. He intentionally leaves a trail, knowing these goons are too dumb not to follow. He lures a significant number of cartel members towards his barn, a seemingly innocuous structure that's actually another meticulously designed death trap. The creak of the barn doors, the scree of rats in the hay, it all adds to the ominous atmosphere. The cartel members, their numbers already reduced and their confidence shaken, cautiously approach, their footsteps heavy and uncertain. They fan out, their voices hushed, wary of the unseen predator. The air is thick with the smell of dry hay and dust, and the underlying scent of fear. As they enter the barn, the sound of their boots echoing on the wooden floor, Rambo triggers his next surprise. A massive explosion rips through the structure with a deafening boom, engulfing the barn in a fiery inferno. The roar of the flames, the crumble of wood, the shattering of glass, and the screams of the cartel members caught in the blast are overwhelming. Debris flies everywhere, scattering across the ranch like lethal confetti. The sheer force of the explosion sends a shockwave across the property, rattling windows in the main house and sending birds scattering into the night sky. The crackle of the burning barn is intense, the orange glow illuminating the surrounding area with a hellish light. Victor Martinez, watching the carnage from a distance, lets out a roar of frustration and rage. He's losing control, and his men are dropping like flies. He's starting to realize that Rambo is not just a man. He's a force of nature, an unstoppable, vengeful hurricane. The remaining cartel members, those who survived the blast, are disoriented, coughing through the thick smoke and dust, their faces blackened and their clothes singed. They stumble out of the burning wreckage, their eyes wide with terror, their weapons forgotten in the face of such overwhelming destruction. Rambo, emerging from a hidden position, then targets these dazed survivors with precise, brutal efficiency. The ping of a headshot from his rifle, the thwack of an arrow finding its mark, the shunk of his knife. It's a relentless, surgical cleanup. He's not leaving any witnesses, no one to tell the tale of the man who single-handedly brought down an entire cartel. The sound of their collapsing bodies, the gurgle of dying men, is grimly satisfying. This scene is a visceral spectacle of destruction, a testament to Rambo's ingenuity and his unwavering commitment to his vengeance. The fire continues to rage, casting long, dancing shadows, turning the ranch into a battlefield worthy of its veteran owner. The stench of smoke and burning flesh fills the air, a grim perfume for the dead. The cartel's numbers are now significantly depleted, their morale shattered. They came for a fight, and Rambo gave them a war they were never going to win. The whoosh of an escape tunnel closing as Rambo disappears back into his hidden network, leaving the burning barn as a monument to his lethal efficiency, is the final touch. The dwindling cartel numbers, now thoroughly terrified and desperate, are herded by Rambo into the dense, overgrown forest surrounding his ranch. This isn't just a forest. It's another segment of Rambo's custom-built death course, a gauntlet designed to maximize fear and minimize survival. The rustle of leaves underfoot, the snap of twigs, the whisper of the wind through the trees, every sound is amplified, making the already jumpy cartel members even more paranoid. Rambo, like a silent predator, uses the cover of the foliage to his advantage, becoming one with the environment. he unleashes a barrage of ingenious, savage traps. Suddenly, a cartel member is impaled by a swinging log trap, the crunch of wood and bone sickeningly loud. Another steps on a camouflaged tripwire, triggering a hail of sharpened spikes that shoot from the ground with a terrifying whoosh, ripping through his legs and sending him tumbling with a pathetic thud. The screams of pain, the desperate cries for help, fill the night air, echoing through the trees. Rambo uses a bow and arrow with lethal precision, the twang of the string followed by the thwack of an arrow-piercing flesh. He utilizes his customized M16, its rat-a-tat-tat, a deafening symphony of destruction, taking down multiple targets with focused bursts. He's a blur of motion, appearing and disappearing, never giving them a clear target, always striking from the shadows. The cartel members are in full retreat, disoriented, their morale shattered, their bravado replaced by primal fear. They're shooting wildly into the darkness, their bullets pinging off trees, a futile attempt to hit a ghost. The thump thump of their frantic footsteps as they try to escape the relentless onslaught is a soundtrack of pure terror. They fall into more hidden pitfalls, are ripped apart by more makeshift explosives, and are silently dispatched by Rambo's blade. The gurgle of their final breaths barely audible over the sounds of chaos. It's a relentless, unflinching display of Rambo's mastery of guerrilla warfare. He's not just killing. He's toying with them, drawing out their suffering, making them pay for every ounce of pain inflicted on Gabriela. The smell of gunpowder and fresh blood hangs heavy in the humid night air. The final few remaining cartel members are cornered, their faces streaked with dirt and fear, their eyes wide with the chilling realization that they are utterly outmatched. Rambo closes in, his face grim, his movements deliberate. The crunch of his boots on dead leaves is the last sound many of them will ever hear. He eliminates them one by one with a cold, surgical precision that is both terrifying and oddly satisfying. This brutal, protracted gauntlet serves as the ultimate culmination of Rambo's vengeance, a final, merciless purge of the cartel from his land. The sounds of their dying gasps, the thud of their lifeless bodies, are swallowed by the vast, indifferent forest, leaving only silence in their wake. And then there's only one left, Victor Martinez, witnessing the utter annihilation of his crew, his smug arrogance completely evaporated, replaced by raw, unadulterated terror. The stage is set for the final, personal confrontation, the ultimate reckoning between predator and prey, with the rest of the cartel reduced to bloody, dismembered statistics. Rambo finally sets his sights on the big boss, Victor Martinez. Victor, who started this whole mess with his arrogant cruelty, is now a sniveling, pathetic wreck, his eyes wide with a terror that only Rambo can inspire. He's no longer the smug cartel leader. He's just a scared man caught in a very large, very angry spider's web. Rambo, moving with a grim determination, physically grabs Victor, his grip like a vice, and unceremoniously drags him into the still smoldering barn. The scrape of Victor's body across the dirt, his frantic pleas and whimpers echoing in the night, are chilling. The barn, a scene of previous destruction, now serves as the final, intimate stage for Rambo's ultimate act of vengeance. The lingering smell of smoke and burnt wood fills the air, adding to the grim atmosphere. Rambo ties Victor to a post, his movements precise and unyielding. Victor's frantic struggles against the ropes, his desperate attempts to beg for his life, are futile. Rambo stares at him, his face devoid of emotion, his eyes like two cold, hard stones. He explains in a low, gravelly voice exactly why Victor is about to suffer. He describes Gabriela's pain, her fear, her innocent hope, and how Victor stole it all. The shivers that run down Victor's spine are almost palpable. This isn't just an execution. It's a lesson, a tortuous, agonizing lesson in consequences. Rambo doesn't want a quick kill. He wants Victor to experience a fraction of the suffering he inflicted. He begins to mutilate Victor, using his legendary knife with a surgical, almost artistic cruelty. The slash of the blade, the gasp of pure agony from Victor, the squelch of flesh, it's a horrifying, visceral sequence. Rambo methodically inflicts wounds, prolonging Victor's suffering, ensuring he feels every agonizing second. He carves into Victor's chest, pulling out his heart with a sickening rip, holding it up for Victor to see in his final moments. The sheer, unbridled brutality of the act is shocking, but given the torment Rambo has endured, it feels like a grim, necessary catharsis. Victor's screams, initially loud and desperate, slowly fade into a strangled gurgle, his body going limp. The thud of his lifeless body hitting the ground is the sound of absolute finality. The mission is complete. Gabrielle has been avenged, and the Martinez cartel has been utterly destroyed. From the bottom feeders to the kingpin himself, Rambo stands over Victor's corpse, his chest heaving, his face splattered with blood, the dark, hollow emptiness of vengeance settling upon him. The burning barn, now slowly dying down, casts long, dancing shadows, flickering across his blood-stained face. He has achieved his goal, but at what cost? The silence that descends upon the ranch is absolute, a stark contrast to the chaos that just unfolded. The wind whistles through the gaps in the barn, a mournful lament for the lives lost, and the peace that will never truly return. Rambo's journey of vengeance has reached its gruesome conclusion, leaving him standing alone amidst the wreckage, a man forever haunted by the ghosts of his past and the brutal reality of his present. With the entire Martinez cartel wiped from the face of the earth, and Victor Martinez receiving a very personal, very violent send-off, Rambo is left in the eerie silence of his ravaged ranch. The smoke from the burnt barn still curls into the night sky, a grim monument to the carnage. He stumbles back to his porch, his body a map of fresh cuts, bruises, and bullet wounds. The physical toll of his woman wore evident in every strained movement. The creak of the porch swing as he collapses onto it is a weary sigh. He's bleeding, exhausted, but alive. The quiet sounds of the night, once comforting, now seem to amplify the emptiness, the profound silence. He sits there alone, the setting sun casting long, orange shadows across his blood-stained face. His gaze is distant, haunted, reflecting a lifetime of violence and loss. There's no triumphant cheer, no celebration of victory, just a deep, pervasive weariness. He touches a pendant, a small, tangible connection to Gabrielle, his eyes welling up with silent tears. The whisper of the wind carries the faint scent of ash and death. He achieved his vengeance, but it didn't bring Gabrielle back. It didn't bring peace. It only brought more pain, more blood, more echoes of the past that refused to die. The visual of him, a solitary figure against the vast, indifferent landscape, is powerfully melancholic. Maria finds him later, offering a quiet comfort, tending to his wounds with a gentle hand. The soft murmur of her words, a soothing balm against the harsh reality, contrasts sharply with the sounds of battle from moments before. She encourages him to rest, to find some semblance of peace, if such a thing is even possible for a man like Rambo, but true peace eludes him. In the final, iconic moments, we see Rambo riding his horse into the sunset, just like a classic Western hero. But this isn't a triumphant ride. It's a ride of a weary warrior, forever burdened by the scars of his battles. The thud of the horse's hooves, the creak of the saddle leather, the soft snorts of the animal, these are the only companions to his solitude. He's heading into the unknown, perhaps deeper into his tunnels, deeper into himself, searching for something that may never truly be found. The sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, a beautiful but somber farewell. His journey isn't over. It's simply continuing down a different, perhaps even darker path. He remains the protector, the warrior, the man who will always fight for what he believes is right, even if it means tearing himself apart in the process. It's a poignant, thought-provoking ending that leaves us contemplating the true cost of vengeance and the enduring, tragic legacy of John Rambo. It reminds us that while we may seek justice, the echoes of violence linger, and true peace is often the most elusive prize. And so, the legend rides on, into the fading light, forever a soldier, forever Rambo. Today we're diving headfirst into the brutal, no-holds-barred world of Rambo, Last Blood, the fifth and, apparently, final chapter in the saga of John Rambo. This one takes our grizzled hero from the jungles and war zones to the dusty, sun-baked landscape of his Arizona ranch, where he's finally trying to find some semblance of peace. Of course, peace for Rambo is a relative term. We open with him working his ranch, looking every bit the weary warrior, but still capable. He's got a family now, his old friend Maria and her granddaughter, Gabriela. This is a passion project for me, and a like or a subscribe is the best way to show your support. So if you're on board, join the crew. If not, thanks for watching anyway. So Rambo settled into this new, somewhat domestic life. He's even got a knack for breaking wild horses, which honestly seems like a pretty chill retirement plan after all those years of, being Rambo. But as always, trouble comes knocking. Gabriela, who is essentially Rambo's surrogate daughter, has this burning desire to find her biological father, who abandoned her and her mother years ago. She's found a friend, Giselle, who lives in Mexico and claims to know where he is. Rambo, with his deep-seated understanding of how dangerous the world can be, particularly south of the border, tries to talk her out of it. He's seen enough bad things to fill 10 lifetimes, and he knows that innocent intentions often pave the road to disaster. He warns her, with that gravelly Rambo voice, that going to Mexico alone is a terrible idea. Maria echoes his concerns, but Gabriela, with the stubborn optimism of youth, believes she can handle it. She's got her heart set on getting answers, on confronting the man who walked out on them. The audience, of course, is already shouting at the screen, "Don't do it, Gabriela. Listen to the man who can single-handedly take down an army." But alas, she's determined. Despite the stern warnings and the palpable sense of dread hanging in the air, Gabriela makes her move. She slips away from the ranch, heading straight for Mexico. It's one of those moments where you just know things are about to go sideways. In Mexico, she meets up with Giselle, who seems friendly enough, though there's a flicker of something nervous in her eyes. Giselle takes Gabriela to a bar where her father supposedly works. The atmosphere is immediately different from the quiet safety of the ranch, louder, grittier, a bit more intense. You can almost smell the cheap tequila and desperation in the air. Gabriela, ever hopeful, finally spots her father across the room. She approaches him, ready to lay out all her feelings, all her questions, everything she's held onto for years. She just wants some closure, some understanding. But this reunion is anything but heartwarming. Her father, a man clearly hardened by life and his own mistakes, reacts with cold indifference, even anger. He tells her in no uncertain terms that he never wanted her, that she's a mistake. The words hit Gabriela like a physical blow, stripping away any hope she had. It's a gut-wrenching moment, and you can practically hear the clink of her heart shattering. Giselle, witnessing this crushing rejection, tries to comfort her, but the damage is done. The initial shock gives way to a dull ache, and Gabriela is left utterly devastated, reeling from her father's brutal rejection. Gabriela is at her most vulnerable. She stumbles out of the bar, feeling lost and utterly alone. Giselle, trying to be helpful, suggests they go to another party, maybe to lift her spirits, which in retrospect is about the worst idea imaginable. Gabriela, emotionally shattered, agrees. On the way, they encounter a group of men who offer them a ride. The situation immediately feels off. There's a subtle predatory gleam in their eyes, a certain slickness that screams danger. Gabriela, too overcome with despair to notice the warning signs, gets into the car. As soon as the doors click shut, the mood shifts from uneasy to overtly menacing. She's quickly drugged, a chilling realization dawning on her as her vision blurs and her body goes limp. The car speeds off, and Gabriela's last conscious thoughts are likely of regret, fear, and the faces of Rambo and Maria. She's been snatched, swallowed whole by the insidious underworld that Rambo had warned her about. It's a harsh, immediate consequence of her naive journey, and the audience knows, with a sinking feeling, that Rambo is about to have a very, very bad day when he finds out. The silence that follows her abduction is deafening, a stark contrast to the lively, if seedy, bar she just left. The quiet hum of the car engine is the only sound accompanying her descent into darkness. Back at the ranch, Maria is frantic. Gabriela hasn't returned, and a bad feeling has settled deep in her bones. She calls Rambo, who, with a single phone call, shifts from peaceful rancher to unleash the beast. You can practically see the gears turning in his head, calculating the worst-case scenario. He knows instinctively that Gabriela is in deep trouble. Without a moment's hesitation, Rambo leaps into action. He bypasses any official channels because, let's be real, John Rambo doesn't call the police. He is the police, judge, and executioner rolled into one very muscular package. He jumps in his pickup truck, a trusty companion, and blasts across the border into Mexico. His first stop is Gazelle's apartment, the last known contact Gabriela had. He enters the building, the air thick with tension, and finds Gazelle, clearly terrified. She tries to deny knowing anything, but Rambo's intense, unblinking stare and his sheer presence are enough to crack her. She quickly spills the beans, revealing that Gabriela was taken by a ruthless cartel. She points him in the direction of a seedy nightclub, a known front for their operations. The information is grim, confirming Rambo's worst fears. You can almost hear the low growl rumbling in his chest as he prepares to venture into the belly of the beast. The casual disdain of the cartel members he encounters, the palpable sense of danger, all serve to fuel Rambo's simmering rage. Armed with Gazelle's information, Rambo heads to the nightclub. It's a chaotic, pulsating den of illicit activities, precisely the kind of place where bad things happen to good people. Rambo, with his signature blend of stealth and raw intimidation, navigates the shadowy corridors, looking for any sign of Gabriela. He finds some of the cartel members, attempts to interrogate them, but these guys are hardened criminals, not easily swayed by a stern glare. They're clearly underestimated Rambo, which, as history has shown, is a very bad move. But this time, Rambo is caught off guard. He's ambushed by a larger group of cartel thugs. They overwhelm him with sheer numbers, hitting him with everything they've got. The sounds of fists cracking against flesh, the dull thud of his body hitting the ground, the metallic clang of cheap weapons are all too real. This isn't a fair fight, it's a brutal, merciless beatdown. They kick him, stomp on him, use whatever they can get their hands on. He's bloodied, broken, but still fighting, a desperate growl escaping his lips with every blow. They leave him for dead in a filthy alleyway, thinking they've extinguished the threat. Big mistake. Monumental mistake. They have no idea who they just messed with. They've just poked a very angry bear, and now the bear is waking up, albeit with a concussion and several broken ribs. It's a shocking scene, designed to show that even Rambo has limits, but also to ignite the fuse for his inevitable, devastating retribution. Asterisk, just when you think Rambo is truly down for the count, a glimmer of hope appears in the darkness. He's discovered by Carmen Delgado, a fiercely independent journalist who, by some stroke of luck, is also investigating the very same cartel. Talk about a coincidence, right? It's like the universe knew Rambo needed a friend. Carmen finds him in that alley, barely clinging to life, and despite the obvious danger, she drags him back to her hidden apartment. She's got a makeshift medical kit and the steely resolve of someone who's seen too much injustice. She meticulously tends to his horrific wounds, patching him up as best she can. The sounds of her careful ministrations, the soft clink of instruments, the whispered words of concern, are a stark contrast to the brutal cacophony of his beating. As Rambo slowly regains consciousness, Carmen explains her own connection to the cartel's brutality. Her sister was also kidnapped by them. She's been tirelessly gathering information, trying to expose their atrocities. There's an unspoken understanding that passes between them. To broken souls, both seeking justice against a common enemy. This moment establishes Carmen not just as a healer, but as a potential ally, a source of vital intelligence for the storm that Rambo is about to unleash. She's seen the depths of the cartel's evil, and she knows exactly what Rambo is up against. As Rambo slowly mends, Carmen shares everything she knows. She's got maps, photographs, names, and locations, a treasure trove of intelligence on the Martinez brothers, Victor and Hugo, who run the cartel. It's a moment of quiet intensity, Rambo's eyes scanning the details, his mind processing every bit of information. You can almost hear the gears of war grinding into motion in his head. The names of the brothers, the locations of their brothels and drug operations, the chilling details of their human trafficking ring, all of it fuels Rambo's burning desire for vengeance. He's not just looking for Gabriela anymore. He's looking to dismantle this entire operation, piece by bloody piece. Carmen's information is a lifeline, giving Rambo the strategic advantage he needs. He starts to formulate a plan, not just to rescue Gabriela, but to obliterate the source of her pain. He's not thinking about escaping. He's thinking about eradication. The quiet determination on his face tells you everything you need to know. The line has been crossed, and Rambo is coming. His fingers trace lines on the map, envisioning pathways, points of entry, and most importantly, points of no return for the cartel. This isn't just a rescue mission. It's a declaration of war, and Rambo is meticulously preparing his battlefield. With newfound strength and a clear objective, Rambo moves. He's heading for the brothel where Gabriela is being held, a place Carmen identified as one of the cartel's primary holding pens. This isn't Rambo barging in guns blazing. It's Rambo as a ghost, a predator. He slips into the building under the cover of darkness, his movements fluid and silent. The air inside is thick with fear and despair, a palpable contrast to the outside world. He navigates the dimly lit corridors, his senses hyper-alert, listening for any sound, any whisper that might lead him to Gabriela. The metallic tang of fear and stale sweat hangs heavy in the air. He encounters the first few cartel guards and they don't even see him coming. A swift, brutal efficiency is his hallmark. The quiet thud of bodies hitting the ground, the muffled gasps, are the only sounds accompanying his methodical progress. He's a one-man stealth operation, an avenging angel of sorts, if angels were tactical gear and wielded very large knives. He checks room after room, his hope a fragile thing against the grim reality of the place. Each locked door, each terrified face he passes, fuels his quiet fury. He's not just looking for Gabriela. He's tearing through a nest of vipers, one silent, lethal strike at a time. Finally, Rambo finds her. Gabriela is in a horrific state, drugged, beaten, barely conscious. The sight of her, so utterly broken, sends a fresh surge of ice-cold rage through him. He gently, yet urgently, scoops her into his arms, a stark contrast to his usual brutal efficiency. He carries her out of that nightmare, through the chaos he created, back to his truck. The escape is tense, a flurry of gunfire and desperate driving, but Rambo, fueled by an almost primal need to protect her, pushes through. He races back towards the safety of his ranch, clutching Gabriela tightly, whispering reassurances. But it's too late. The damage is done. The drugs, the trauma, it's all too much for her young body. In a heart-wrenching scene, as they cross back into Arizona, Gabriela takes her last breath in Rambo's arms. Her passing is quiet, almost imperceptible, yet it hits Rambo like a thunderclap. The sudden stillness in her body, the cessation of her shallow breathing, is devastating. The sheer weight of his failure, the crushing blow of losing the last piece of family he had, transforms his grief into an incandescent fury. This isn't just sadness. It's a complete mental break, a crossing of a line from which there is no return. He buries her next to a tree on his ranch, a simple, dignified burial for a life stolen too soon. The quiet dignity of the burial is a stark contrast to the storm of emotion raging within him. The shovels thudding against the earth echo the pounding of his heart, now solely dedicated to vengeance. This singular act of loss sets Rambo on a path of pure, unadulterated vengeance, a path that will leave a trail of blood and destruction in its wake. The cartels have awakened a sleeping giant, and they are about to regret it. Profoundly standing over Gabriela's freshly dug grave, Rambo's face is a canvas of unspeakable sorrow and chilling resolve. The quiet reverence of the moment is shattered by the thunderous roar of his grief, though it's internal, unseen by anyone but the audience. He doesn't speak. He doesn't cry. He simply decides. The subtle glint in his eye, the tightening of his jaw, conveys more than any dialogue ever could. This is the moment Rambo fully embraces his warrior past, not for a cause, not for a country, but for the girl who became his reason for living. His eyes are dead, devoid of warmth, replaced by a cold, calculating fury. He's not just mourning, he's making a promise of pain to those who took her from him. The ranch, once a sanctuary, now transforms into a war zone, his workshop into an armory. He pulls out old weapons, sharpens knives, preps ammunition. Each clang of metal, each careful wipe of oil on a firearm, is a rhythmic beat in his symphony of impending retribution. He also begins to meticulously dig a series of tunnels beneath his property, a sprawling subterranean network that will serve as both his hideout and his hunting ground. The scrape of the shovel against the earth is a chilling prelude to the carnage to come. He's a man with nothing left to lose, which, as we all know, makes Rambo the most dangerous man on the planet. This isn't just a simple hunt. It's a carefully orchestrated plan for total annihilation, executed with the precision of a seasoned predator. He's not just going to kill them, he's going to make them understand true fear. Rambo transforms his ranch into a literal death trap, a labyrinth of pain for anyone foolish enough to trespass. This isn't your average keep-out sign. This is a full-blown, military-grade defensive perimeter designed by a man who invented asymmetrical warfare. He digs tunnels, carving out an intricate network beneath his land, complete with ventilation shafts and hidden firing positions. It's like something out of a deranged architect's fever dream, if that architect also specialized in explosive devices and razor wire. He crafts an array of improvised weapons and booby traps, tripwires attached to shotguns, razor-sharp punji sticks hidden in pits, exploding arrows, and various other delightfully destructive surprises. The clang of metal, the snap of wire, the dull thud of a shovel against earth, these are the sounds of Rambo meticulously preparing his battlefield. Each trap is a testament to his ingenuity and his ruthless determination. It's almost artistic in its deadly precision. He's not just defending his home, he's building a fortress designed to butcher an invading force. You can practically hear him humming a cheerful tune as he rigs another explosive, which is probably more disturbing than any actual song. The sheer volume of dangerous implements he creates is staggering. It's like a macabre inventor's workshop, but instead of gadgets, he's creating instruments of agonizing doom. The message is clear: cross this threshold, and you forfeit your life, possibly in the most gruesome way imaginable. This isn't just revenge, it's a meticulously planned execution, and Rambo is the master conductor of a symphony of destruction. Back in Mexico, Carmen, worried about Rambo and still seeking justice for her sister, somehow tracks him all the way to his ranch. She's one persistent journalist, that's for sure. She finds Rambo amidst his preparations, looking like a ghost of his former self, covered in dust and grim resolve. She comes bearing gifts, not flowers, but something far more valuable to Rambo, more intelligence. She's got the exact locations of the Martinez brothers, Victor and Hugo, the cartel leaders responsible for Gabriela's death. The sound of rustling papers as she hands him the file, the hushed urgency in her voice, underscore the gravity of the situation. She also tries to appeal to his humanity, urging him to simply rescue her sister and not engage in a full-scale war. But Rambo, with that 1,000-yard stare, makes it clear that he's past the point of negotiation. There's no talking him out of this. His mission now is absolute annihilation. He glances at the photos of the Martinez brothers, their faces a stark reminder of the evil he's sworn to extinguish. He accepts the information, a silent nod of acknowledgement, and Carmen knows, deep down, that she's just provided the tools for a devastating reckoning. She sees the fire in his eyes, the unshakable conviction that this is the only path left for him. Her presence is a reminder that even in his darkest hour, Rambo still has a connection to the outside world, however tenuous. He gives her a subtle look that screams "get out now," and she wisely retreats, leaving Rambo to his bloody masterpiece. Amidst the carnage, Rambo finally corners Hugo Martinez, the head honcho, the man ultimately responsible for Gabriela's suffering and death. Hugo is a mess, bloodied and terrified, his bravado completely shattered. He tries to beg, to plead, to offer Rambo anything, but Rambo's eyes are cold, unseeing. There's no mercy left in him. He drags Hugo into his barn, a place that once held horses and hay, now destined to be the final resting place for a monster. The sounds of their struggle echo in the enclosed space. Hugo's desperate pleas, Rambo's heavy breathing, the creak of the barn door. Rambo doesn't just kill Hugo. He tortures him, extracting every ounce of pain and suffering that Gabriela endured tenfold. He nails Hugo's hands to a post, a chillingly medieval punishment, and then, with a slow, deliberate movement, cuts out his heart. The scene is incredibly graphic, a visceral display of Rambo's absolute, unhinged fury. It's a moment designed to shock, to highlight the depths of Rambo's grief at his total abandonment of any moral restraint. This isn't justice. It's pure, unadulterated vengeance, and Rambo takes a grim satisfaction in delivering it. The metallic clang of the hammer, the visceral squelch, Hugo's final, agonizing scream, these are the sounds of Rambo settling his last score. The quiet afterwards is deafening, broken only by Rambo's ragged breaths. The barn is now a tomb, and Rambo stands as its grim, solitary guardian. He's finished, his promise fulfilled, but at what cost? The morning after the storm of violence, the ranch is littered with bodies and debris, a stark testament to the night's brutal events. The air still carries the faint smell of gunpowder and blood, a lingering reminder of the hell that unfolded. Rambo, his face bruised and battered, sits on his porch, the shotgun resting in his lap. He meticulously cleans it, the rhythmic click of the mechanisms a stark counterpoint to the quiet devastation around him. His eyes are distant, haunted, filled with a quiet sorrow that no amount of vengeance can truly assuage. He gazes out at the sunrise, a new day dawning over a landscape forever changed. He knows, deep down, that while he avenged Gabriela, he didn't bring her back. He simply added more blood to the endless river of violence that has defined his life. He's a man who has always fought for what he believed was right, but this time, the fight was purely personal, driven by a primal grief. He knows this won't bring him peace. Not truly. He's left with the echoes of screams, the taste of blood, and the hollow victory of a war won at an immeasurable personal cost. The subtle creak of the porch swing, the gentle breeze rustling through the trees, these are the quiet witnesses to his weary contemplation. He wonders if he'll ever truly escape the shadows of his past, if he'll ever find that elusive peace he's been searching for all these years. The scene ends with him sitting there, a lone warrior on his porch, forever marked by the last blood he shed. It's a melancholic, reflective ending to a story drenched in brutality. He's come full circle, but perhaps the circle will never truly close for John Rambo. And so, we leave John Rambo, a man forever etched by the fires of war and the grief of loss. His journey, from a young veteran struggling with PTSD to an aging warrior seeking solace, reminds us that some battles are fought not on fields of glory, but within the confines of the human heart. It's a powerful testament to the enduring spirit, the fight for what's right, even when the path is steeped in sorrow. Perhaps peace isn't found in a place, but in the acceptance of one's own nature. Rambo teaches us that even in the darkest moments, the resolve to protect those we love can drive us to unimaginable lengths. It's a complex legacy, one that encourages us to reflect on the cycles of violence and the true cost of vengeance. Thanks for joining me on this intense ride. Until next time, stay safe and keep fighting your own good fights.